Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
This show is brought to you by BetUS.com. 125% off your first 3 deposits, 30 years experience, secure site, wagering for all sports, including during the games and futures. SeatGeek provides you the best prices on sports and music events, game tickets, and concerts. Use NSS promo code to get $20 off your first ticket. Keep using the NSS promo code when purchasing tickets for great deals in the future. In Fanatics at nessp.info for your favorite teams, sportswear. Click on the link, and while you're there, check out our national streaming sports merchandise. Sure, we're big. That's that. You don't want to see my big head in there anyway. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. And Monday morning, Jack, we made it through the weekend. A lot of football the last 3 days. We're going to concentrate mainly on Sunday's games because we talked about it on the big football show, the Friday and Saturday stuff. Welcome in to your first look at sports on Monday on the Roku channel. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. I'm coming to you live from Connecticut, folks. And through the power of the internet, Jackson, Florida. It looks like we're just sitting together, across the room from each other, and we're going to have a great conversation about sports.
Yeah, people are really impressed, Mac, that you're coming from Connecticut, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, Connecticut's big. It's the host of ESPN. It's the host of the WWE headquarters as well.
That's right. For a little state, we got a lot of stuff. And it's the host of National Streaming Sports. So we can throw that in there, too. He comes live out of here. So, Jack, at the end of the year, they say you got contenders and pretenders. And I think it's more what team wants it more. It always comes down to what team wants it more. You could be physically gifted. You could have more talent. You could have the better team on paper. But I just think that there's chemistry. There's will. There's I'm going to win no matter what. You see individual players. They're not going to go down. They're going to keep going. Wide receivers are going to grab the ball away from the defenders. Quarterbacks are going to get hit, and they're still going to get back up and throw. I mean, this to me is we're in playoff football right now. There are teams that are trying to get in the playoffs, trying to get the right seeding, and there's other teams that are just lost. And yesterday, the Eagles are in playoff form, and the Cowboys, of course, only score 7 points.
I mean, with CeeDee Lamb out, Dak Prescott out, the Cowboys eliminated from the playoffs. There wasn't a lot to play for. And the Eagles, especially with that loss to Washington, in which they blew the lead the week before, couldn't afford another loss because then panic was going to set in Philadelphia. They were going to remember the collapse last year. It was a big game for the Eagles still as far as being in contention, as far as seeding goes. the loss to Washington last week really damaged them as far as getting the bye in the first round. They're like a real long shot, as far as that goes. And they can't get that anyway in reality, because it would come down to the Vikings or the Lions. The winner of that game gets it. So the Eagles are going to be, in all probability, the number 3 seed, in the playoffs, where they'll host the first playoff game and then take it from there. But I'm not sure when you're saying the will, who wants to win more. I mean, it's a cliche. We hear all these analysts, Mac, talking about mistakes, turnovers. That's the difference. I mean, we've seen teams quit. I understand that. But, in a big game that has playoff implications for both teams, like the Falcons and the Commanders last night, it wasn't a question of who wanted to win more. I mean, you can't pick that out. You could say, oh, the Commanders wanted to win more, so they got it done. But if the Falcons made the 56-yard field goal at the end of the game, at the end of regulation, could we have said they wanted to win more? I mean, I understand teams do quit sometimes, like my Jets yesterday. You got the feeling they really weren't playing as hard as they were capable of playing. So, yeah, you could say that in certain instances.
When Jim Jeffcoat was with us, I asked him one thing. I said, it all boils down to the will, the will to win. When you're lined up against somebody, Jack, and you consistently beat this guy down, he starts giving up. Whether it's a second quarter, third quarter, whatever. It's like a running back. They give it to every, in the beginning, and by the end, it's the defensive back does not want to tackle this guy anymore. He's been running all over him. And that's what I mean. Of course, turnovers are important. Of course, momentum or a big catch or a big play, a fumble is important. But when you go in and you beat somebody down, and I know Dallas wasn't 100%. I know that. But when you beat somebody down like that, a rival, it says something. It says something to the team. It says something to the coach. It should be saying something to Jerry Jones that, hey, you didn't do your job this year getting the people you needed. You didn't get a running back. You didn't get a defense that could stop the run. You didn't have another wide receiver that when CeeDee Lamb went down that you could have brought into the fold. I think Dallas blew this in the beginning of the year, Jack, and it's showing right now.
Well, a lot of people felt that way about Dallas. But keep in mind, before this year, they were 12-5 the 3 seasons in a row. So Jerry had to be doing something right with Stephen Jones. But this year, people were questioning Dallas's moves before the season. It's not like second guessing. And it was the lack of moves made by Dallas. Yeah. I mean, they would make minor transactions, and that would be about it, because they seem to be focused on their big name players, signing them to long-term deals, clearing cap space. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, they're going to have to deal with the Micah Parsons contract. I mean, he's a generational type talent for the Cowboys. So you don't just walk away from players like that so easily, because they're impact players. I mean, if you decide you're not going to sign them, it's a decision that you're going to spend a long time thinking about and analyzing about. And with Dallas, the question is with Dallas, they're not in the playoffs this year. They're not, I can't see them standing pat in the offseason. They're going to have to make some moves. But the big talk right now with Dallas is Mike McCarthy, whether he's going to be retained or not. Insiders seem to feel that Jerry Jones is going to stick with them. And how can you criticize Jerry Jones if he does that? If he fires Mike McCarthy, everyone's going to say Mike McCarthy's not the problem, Jerry Jones is. And Mike McCarthy's a scapegoat. And if he sticks with Mike McCarthy, they're going to say Jerry's not doing anything.
Right.
I mean, listen, I understand Jerry Jones is a lightning rod as far as his personality goes. He's got a big, big personality. But sometimes it gets a little out of hand the way people are pointing the finger at Jerry Jones for every little thing that goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Jerry Jones to me gets too involved, but it's his team. I mean, he can do whatever. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. I just think
He's
maybe
the GM. How many owners are GMs, Max? He's
sometimes
the
I think,
general manager and the owner. The
well, really,
GM, he's entitled as the GM to make moves. He should.
him and his son really are the GM. I mean, they both, I think, work together as the GM and
Yeah.
his son. But I mean, maybe he deflects the problems to himself. I don't know what he does. I don't understand Jerry Jones. I never have. But anyway, as you said, 12-5, 3 seasons. I think he sat on his laurels last year thinking everything's fine. We went 12-5 3 years in a row, and he just dropped off. So they got to do something this year.
Yeah, in a row.
Yeah, they got to do something this year. What do you think about Saquon Barkley? He gets 100.
Let me ask you this, Matt. Let me ask you this. He needs, I think, 108 yards so to equal Eric Dickerson's season record. I might be off a yard or two. I'm very close.
You're close.
It's for the most part a meaningless game for the Eagles. The Eagles are so much better than the Giants. They should be able to beat them with a 60% effort. I would think. Do you rest Saquon Barkley? Because the Eagles aren't getting a bye. You're not getting a bye, and they're going to play the following week, the first playoff game. You just play them a limited amount, or do you let them just go for the record? People are going to second guess the Eagles no matter what they do. If they basically sit Saquon Barkley or only give him a few touches, people are going to say, well, they should have let him go for the record. It's something special. If you play him and let him go for the record, and let's say he even breaks the record. Let's say he breaks the record, but he suffers an injury that affects him for the playoff game the following week. He's not the same player, or he's questionable. People are going to say, well, you shouldn't put an individual ahead of the good of the team.
I mean, so this is a record that might never be broken again. I mean, how long has it been since Dickerson's record has a shot of being broke?
Dickerson did it, but Dickerson did it in 16 games.
Yeah, I know.
So the reality is,
it's going to be an asterisk, Jack, next to it.
Well, they might not put an asterisk. Look what happened with Roger Maris when he broke Babe Ruth's home run record.
Yeah.
People would get, a lot of people, and myself for a long time included, thought there shouldn't be an asterisk. He broke the record, the most homers in the season. But the bottom line is Maris had 8 more games than Babe Ruth to do it. And when you're doing these seasonal records, there really should be an asterisk. It should be the most yards gained in a 17-game season.
Agreed.
And let's say Barkley breaks it, the NFL's probably going to an 18-game season.
Right.
I mean, someone gets more yards in 18 games than 17 or 16 games, and we're going to ignore the extra game. What might Dickerson have done if he had an extra game? Give him an additional 100 yards, and the record is out of view for Barkley.
Well, I mean, until they change that, I think Barkley needs like 101 yards. So now, if you're the coach, Jack, this is important. I mean, Eagles may win the Super Bowl, they may not win the Super Bowl. This will stand for years. And even if Saquon is like, well, I don't care, I think he cares. I think everybody cares. I mean, this is a record that is
Barry Sanders.
Right.
He's the only one who never cares. I mean, he's amazing.
I think he cares. So as a coach, you say, okay, we'll give you a half. If you can do it in a half, if you get 101 yards in half, good. If you can't, then we're pulling it.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. That's where you were coach, Mac, not in an NFL level, but a lower level. That's smart. You maybe give him a quarter and a half. If he breaks the long run, now you're in business.
Yeah.
Now you're in business. But keep in mind, if he's something like 40 yards short, what do the Giants do? And this is an interesting storyline that just popped into my head, Mac, that no one is thinking about and no one has mentioned. The Giant players on the defensive side of the ball probably love Saquon Barkley. He was their teammate. And he's a great, and by all accounts, he's a great guy. And and they're all thinking, man, that would be cool if Saquon got the record. They're probably thinking that. Can you imagine at one point a couple of them very kind of slyly miss a tackle or two so he could break off a long run? I mean, I'm not saying it would happen, but it's a possible scenario because of how they feel about Saquon Barkley, and they want him to get the record.
Off the field, yes. On the field, they do not want to be the team to give Saquon Barkley. They're competitive. They don't want Saquon Barkley to be the team that Saquon Barkley gets the record on. I mean, that's also going to be in the record books forever. I mean, they've had a bad enough season. I think they'll do everything in their power if Saquon plays to shut him down. I think they'll do everything in their power to shut him down. But there's one more angle we ain't looked at yet. We haven't looked at yet. Ain't. That's a great word. Remember when O.J. Simpson ran for his historic year? The offensive line takes as much pride in this record as Saquon does. Believe it. This is the offensive line opening the holes for Saquon Barkley. And I have a feeling, Jack, not only does Barkley want it, I think the offensive line may want it more than Saquon Barkley because they're the ones that he's with the Eagles. That's a great offensive line. And that goes in the books. Hey, we were the linemen that blocked for Saquon Barkley to break that record.
Yeah, but we all go back to when Michael Strahan was trying to get the sack record, and Brett Favre tanked it at the end of the game. I don't think we even talked about that, the 30-by-30. That was an absolute disgrace. Brett Favre's offensive line, it was important for them to keep Michael Strahan in check. They didn't want him to get the record. Right, they had their pride. And so Brett Favre sold out his own offensive line after all the work they did because he wanted Strahan to get the record. Mark Gastineau had every right to be upset years later. Strahan, I think so little of him by so proudly thinking he got the record. It was a tank job. That sack should have been taken away from him by the NFL. It was not a sack.
You can't take it away. You can't take it away. If the guy falls down and you touch him, he's tackled.
And I did it deliberately so Strahan could get the sack. But he tanked again. Okay, Favre should have maybe been suspended. Something. He tanked it. He fixed it.
He fell down, Jack. He slipped and fell.
He deliberately ran into his arms.
I saw it as it happened. I know what happened. I'm saying he fell down. All you got to do is touch him, and it's a tackle. I get it. But Gastineau's got to get over it, Jack. How many years ago was this? And Michael Strahan was 2 times the defensive end than Mark Gastineau. Played the run, played the pass.
First up, wait. First off, Gastineau was a better. Strahan was a better player, clearly, because he played the run great, Strahan, and Gastineau was awful against the run. But as a pure pass rusher, Gastineau was a little better than Strahan on balance. Pure pass. But that's got nothing to do with it at all. Not a thing, and personality's got nothing to do with it at all. Brett Favre tanked the sack deliberately. He didn't slip. He didn't slip at all.
Jack, I bet you go in sports over the years, people have done things like that. Somebody might not have may have swung to give somebody a perfect game because they were out of it. So I mean, there's got to be things like this that happen all the time. I mean, there's got to be. I don't have any examples in front of me, but I believe that in sports, people do things to, help records along if they're not going to have a chance to win. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying it was an obvious fix where the Giants could do the same thing with Saquon Barkley if they wanted to, but they wouldn't make it as obvious. That's the thing about it. They wouldn't make it as obvious because it's easier to miss a tackle. A guy's running by you grab him and make it seem like you won, like you're trying to, you're just making a half an effort bring them down. And
Yeah.
of course, the Saquon would then break free.
Yeah. Yeah.
You allow yourself to get blocked just a little off the ball, a little more than normal, you know?
Yeah.
You're just a teeny bit less aggressive. There's a way to make it look good. I'm just saying Saquon Barkley might be given a little bit cooperation, a little bit.
And as you said, the worst thing in the world that could happen would be him getting injured, because that would be the easiest place. That would be terrible. Tampa Bay beats Carolina 48-14. Baker with 5 touchdowns, 359 yards. Bucky Irvin ran for a $131. Mike Evans had 2 touchdowns. I mean, I watched the highlights of that game. I saw one of the touchdowns, Jack. It looked like nobody covered the one guy. He just stood there and threw it over the guy's head. Then it was a touchdown. Carolina's just not that good. That's all. They're just not that good.
Well, I'll tell you, what a win for Tampa Bay. I mean, the way they dominated 48-14. And Carolina, the good feel with Bryce Young over 3-4 games. He better produce next week, Bryce Young, because the good feel is going to evaporate. And Atlanta losing to Washington, I know you're going to get to that. They let the division get away because Tampa Bay, they play at home against the New Orleans Saints next week. And the Saints right now are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They have a lot of injuries. Tampa's at home. Tampa absolutely should win that game. It would be a shocker if Tampa Bay lost to New Orleans at home with the playoffs on the line. And then if Atlanta beat Carolina, they're hosting them at home, and Atlanta would have a good chance in that game, even though they're not a lock. And then Atlanta would win the division. But they're in a great spot. And, and if I told you now, not rating the quarterbacks in order, not rating them in order, well, Baker Mayfield is maybe a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Off the top of your head, if I say 9 or 10, you might stop and think and go, maybe. You know that? But the point I'm trying to make is this. If I told you that a year and a half ago, you would have brushed it off 2 years ago, that you'd think Baker Mayfield's career would have been as a bridge starter, not as a franchise quarterback. And now for the Buccaneers, there's a good chance Mayfield is going to be their starter for years to come. There's no need for them to look for another quarterback. They got their guy, and they got him cheap.
But does Baker make them a Super Bowl contender?
Baker doesn't hurt them from being a Super Bowl. Yeah, he helps them. Absolutely. I'm not saying they are. If you could put Baker Mayfield on any team, and he'll be an asset to that team. Obviously, I wouldn't want him playing for Buffalo ahead of Josh Allen. I wouldn't swap that at Patrick Mahomes. Those guys obviously have to be rated a little better. But Baker Mayfield is a darn good quarterback, as it turned out. I didn't think he'd be this good of an NFL quarterback. When he went number 1 overall in the draft, I thought he'd be spotty. And his 4 years at Cleveland, his first 4 years in the league, he had 2 good years, 2 so-so years for Cleveland. And even the Browns weren't sure he could be their guy. That's why they went and got Deshaun Watson. Had they known Baker was going to be this good, they wouldn't have gotten Deshaun Watson.
That's you're very possibly right. I don't know what it is about. Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay 1 year, brings a Super Bowl. Baker goes there, and not that Tampa Bay's playing, they're playing good ball. 5 touchdowns is nothing to sneeze at. Of course, they're playing against Carolina, but he just doesn't have it, Jack. You know who has it, right? Aaron Rodgers had it. Josh Allen has it. Patrick Mahomes definitely has it.
You're about Hall of Famers.
These guys will, at the end of the game, will win it for you. Where I don't think Baker can. That's the only thing about Baker. I mean, he's good. He's good. I'm not saying he's not good. I just don't think he's like a level below. He needs a great team. He needs a great team.
Okay, I'll put him on the level basically the way he's playing up at Jared Goff. Okay? Goff has more weapons with the Lions. I'm going to put him on that level. I feel Baker could perform at a very high level, and if he became available, there are good number of teams that he would be starting for. Good number of teams. I don't think this is a one and done year. I think Baker can continue this success going forward, basically for his career. He's had injuries too with his receivers, like Mike Evans has been out. He's made adjustments.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to give you a clunker once in a while. He's going to give you a bad game. But, he's shown a lot of leadership qualities, with Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles has done a heck of a job since he's become the head coach there. They haven't been outstanding, but they always seem to win their division. They're always getting into the playoffs, Mac.
Yeah.
Think about it. Every year we feel, Tampa's going to slip a little. Everyone was saying, the Atlanta Falcons were going to win the division this year. And here we are again. Tampa Bay's on the verge of winning their division. All they have to do is beat New Orleans, which they very probably will this weekend. And they finish the season with a respectable 10-7 record. They'll be division winners. And I think they'd be the number 3 seed.
I think Baker's a very good quarterback. I mean, he was
not number 3 seed. I'm sorry. They would, number 3 seed, because the 4 division winners lineup is the seeds 1, 2, 3, and 4. So number 3 would be playing.
Detroit right now. LA is number 3.
Number
Tampa Bay is number 4. If it stopped today, they'd be playing Detroit. Detroit would be number 5.
Well, assuming Detroit wins today.
Right.
Again, they take the lead as the number 1 seed, but of course, that would be determined in next week's game, Minnesota against Detroit. What a game that's going to be, to see who gets the bye and home field advantage. Wow.
Yes, I agree. So let's talk about your team here, Jack. 40-14, 2 interceptions. Josh Allen throws for 2 touchdowns. Tyrod Taylor put in the fourth quarter. I even heard where Roger says it's Tyrod time or something on the sidelines. I know it's true or not, but I heard that. But anyway, I was reading a post this morning. I once in a while I look at especially Jets. I like to look at the Jet posts because they remind me of Red Sox fans, right? They when they lose, they carry on. When they win, they're going to the Super Bowl. But they said that this guy says, I don't want to hear about the receivers. I don't want to hear about the defense. It's the GM's fault. And I did reply to it. I said, listen, the Jets have one of the best teams in the league on paper. There's no doubt about it. They got 2 great wide receivers. They got 2 very good running backs. They got a great defense when they play together. And Aaron Rodgers is not a scrub. He's still a good quarterback. So it's not the GM's fault. The GM put everything in place for him. They have no chemistry.
The offensive line hasn't been that bad this year. They made a lot of moves, and they haven't been bad. On balance, they haven't been bad.
Chef. It's not like Rodgers got sacked a few times, but so does every quarterback. I mean, they're like they're cursed. It's like they drive the ball down the field and then something happens. I don't know what happens. I don't know. And I don't know, but don't blame the GM for the players playing the way they play. It looks like defense is all playing.
Well, the GM did get blamed. Joe Douglas got fired a few weeks ago, so the GM did, get blamed by the owner. I don't think the fans were going off on Joe Douglas. I don't. I mean, the only move that Joe Douglas made that I didn't care for, and it wasn't as bad a move as I made it out to be. Olu Fashanu, the offensive tackle from Penn State, he took instead of Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, I thought, was a generational talent, and Brock Bowers has proved it with the Raiders this year. He's arguably, right now, if you forget about Travis Kelce's reputation, let's forget about that for one moment. Brock Bowers is arguably the best tight end in football right now. If you forget about reputations, you forget about him being a rookie, he's been great, outstanding. You know, the type of player, how do you pass him up? But the Jets did get a good, offensive lineman who could be very good for years to come. Shown a lot of promise this year and has played well. So maybe I was a little harsh blasting, Joe Douglas for the deal. It was only because I knew with Brock Bowers, you couldn't lose out on that draft pick. To me, he was like the sure thing you don't pass up.
Good morning to MBR too. Glad you joined us today. Jack, what kind of coach? I mean, they're going to get a coach next year for the Jets. What kind of coach are you looking for? Are you looking for an experienced coach that can maybe bring some discipline in there? A young coach that can maybe, I don't know, that more player friendly? Are you looking for offense, defense, special teams? What kind of coach are you looking for if you're the GM and owner of the Jets?
I want a coach who I'm going to put in charge of things. I want a coach who I don't have to make the decisions for. I want a coach who I'm not going to tell, well, you have to play so-and-so, you get this job under these conditions. I mean, I want a high-powered personality, a real take control guy where everyone in the building knows this is the guy in charge, okay? He has full command of the team. I mean, a guy like a Mike Vrabel would seem to fit the bill to me. I've always liked Brian Flores a lot. I know I've said it over and over, but, he comes with the baggage, with the lawsuits and the other nonsense that he brought upon himself. But look at the job he's done as, the Viking defensive coordinator. He's done, a heck of a good job all in all. And, and then you get these wild cards like Ben Johnson, the Lion, offensive coordinator. You really don't know with these hotshot coordinators sometimes what they're going to be. Are these really good college coaches? Traditionally, they come up as a head coach in the NFL and they don't succeed because it's a whole different game. Like Jimmy Johnson said it best yesterday, like college coaches, their main job isn't coaching, it's recruiting. Right. That's their big job. Get the right players, recruit them. But when you're in the NFL, it's the actual coaching. And you mentioned the Jets. I mean, the way they lost to Buffalo yesterday and no fight. And it was an ugly thing, ugly game. Maybe they just need the right coach like a Sean Payton who could turn things around.
Yeah, I think they need an experienced coach. I mean, Rex Ryan is still out there, running for the Jets head coach. I don't know if he'd be the answer or not.
Would Rex be bad? We tend to write him off, but keep this in mind. He took the Jets to 2 AFC championship games in back-to-back years. When have the Jets had that type of success outside of the year? They went to the Super Bowl ages ago, back-to-back years. And with the, and he's a defensive guru. So the defense would be on top of its game constantly. Yeah. But then again, Rex, after he left the Jets, because the Jets started to falter, he went to Buffalo and he didn't have success there. No. So, Rex has a big personality, but I would kind of like a guy like a Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel or Brian Flores. Those would be my two top candidates at the moment.
All right. So let me brag about my Giants. It's only the second time the whole year that I have been able to talk about my Giants winning. I do not know what happened, how they scored 45 points, Jack. That they have only scored at the most 20 points in one game all year. They were in danger of being shut out at home, not winning one home game. Yesterday, the Colts, I don't know what the Colts are thinking. They had still a shot at the playoffs. I mean, I don't know what's up with the Colts, but Malik Neighbors has 7 receptions for 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. In fact, all 3 receivers had a touchdown. We had a kickoff return for a touchdown. I saw that this morning. Jack, He ran straight up the middle, a hole open, and there was nobody there. I've never seen, well, I shouldn't say I never seen, as such an easy, one of the only easiest touchdowns from the end zone I've ever seen in my life. I mean, nobody touched him. So the Giants end up winning 45-33. If they win next
Hope
week,
a long shot to make the playoffs. Don't make it seem like
come on,
that.
they had a chance. I mean, they were in it. I mean, how could you let
Well,
the Giants?
You want to win the game and to lose to the Giants, then if the Giants play Philadelphia next week at home, if the Giants win, are they creating an illusion? That's the thing about it. 2 games in a row, if Drew Lock plays well, are people going to start saying that he should be their quarterback? My mistake. They play at Philadelphia, the Giants. I'm sorry. It's what I thought. They played at the Meadowlands early in the year. But if the Giants should go into Philadelphia and win, some people think because the Eagles are division rival and the game might not be important to the Eagles at all, okay, as it turns out, maybe the Eagles would benefit by the Giants winning. I don't mean the players wouldn't try, but the players are looking ahead to the playoffs in Philadelphia. They're not going to be motivated to play the Giants. Let's be honest about it. They won't be motivated at all. They're looking forward to the playoffs.
You would think.
And if the Giants win, it's going to hurt their draft position a little further. And they're in the same division as the Eagles. And the Eagles don't want them to get Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. Or if they could be knocked out from getting Travis Hunter as well. They might, if they slip out of the top 3, and they will slip out of the top 3 if they beat the Eagles, they're going to miss out on those 3 guys. Of course, it could be a blessing in disguise. You could get your right guy anyway. Like, look, Denver got Bo Nix, the 6th quarterback, taken with pick number 12 overall this year. But, there's a lot of little storylines that are going on.
There definitely is. And the question I got, of course, we don't know if they're going to go for the record or not, which we'll find out. If the ball and Shane are there and they beat that skeleton crew of the Eagles, does that mean that they're back next year? I mean,
I think so, because John Mara, is still evaluating. He doesn't like to fire people. And as long as the team is competitive, they win 2 in a row, he's going to say, okay, maybe we straighten out. We'll do this. We'll do that. And if Drew Lock plays really well the last game, they'll think, hey, we could draft a quarterback in the middle rounds, whatever, and Drew Lock could start. And listen, it's possible that Drew Lock could develop into a starting NFL caliber quarterback. It's possible. I don't want to write him off completely, but you can't count on it happening. You can't count on it. He was given the opportunity.
I don't know about you, but I never really followed Drew Lock. I know he went to Denver, got beat out. I know he went to Seattle, and he was 2nd string. But I've never really followed Drew Lock. There's really nothing to follow, right? I mean, he really didn't play that much. So I don't really know what kind of quarterback he is. I mean, I've seen him play with the Giants. He's okay. I mean, he's not nothing that I would want as a starting quarterback. Maybe he can develop. I don't know. Maybe the ball can develop him into a starting quarterback. I don't know. I just know, I wanted the Giants to get a quarterback last draft because that was a quarterback draft. They get Malik Neighbors, and I really can't complain. I mean, Malik Neighbors is going to be one of the better wide receivers in the league. He already is, really, as a rookie. Broke all the records already. So, I mean, I don't know, Jack. What do you think? If, we drafted Saquon Barkley, and we had a chance to get somebody else, a quarterback or a wide receiver, but we took Saquon, and it proved to be a pretty good pick, right? I mean, looking back, that was a good pick. Malik Neighbors,
a great pick. It was a great pick.
So Malik Neighbors or Jaden Daniels or
they couldn't have gotten Jaden. No. Giants were going 6th. Okay. Right. Caleb Williams went before they picked. Jaden Daniels went. Reportedly, the Giants tried to trade up so they could get Drake May.
Right.
New England needed a quarterback. They didn't want to trade up. They took Drake May. So the Giants had three choices at quarterback if they weren't going to take Malik Neighbors. They could have taken Michael Penix. They could have taken J.J. McCarthy. They could have taken Bo Nix. And, you know, they did the right thing, the Giants. Malik Neighbors is an absolute stud. Michael Penix came with a bit of an injury history, so that would have been a little risky, even though, you know, he's only had a couple of games with the Falcons that he's played. So let's see how he does going forward, even though I think he'll be good. J.J. McCarthy, I thought he was a bit overrated because his Michigan team won a national championship, and he's been out this year. So you can't say they should have taken J.J. McCarthy. And Bo Nix has been excellent, you know, outstanding for Denver. But a lot of that has to do with Sean Payton, how he runs the offense. They put Bo Nix on the Giants this year. Do you think he would be a game changer for them? It's highly doubtful. He would have struggled as the Giant quarterback this year.
No doubt about it. So, you know, I wanted if we could have got Penix, I wanted Penix. That's who I wanted. But
I understand. I understand fully what you're saying. I understand fully. Yeah. But in Malik Neighbors, you're going to have one of the best receivers in all of football. You know, I mean, the only reason he's not it now because he's a rookie and he hasn't had a quarterback to really throw to him on a consistent basis.
Right.
But Malik Neighbors is outstanding.
So again, another game that really didn't mean nothing except for the guys that played it, of course. The Raiders beat Tennessee. What do you think? If they win the next game, do they keep Antonio Pierce?
Well, that's up to Mark Davis. Like I said in past shows, I don't know what he's thinking. If he doesn't have any strong feelings about Antonio Pierce, and he's strictly making a football decision, he should move on from Antonio Pierce. They need a new coach, a new culture. If he really believes in Antonio Pierce, you know, he'll stick with them and give Antonio Pierce a chance to turn things around. And, you know, sometimes you stick with a coach that's struggling and it turns out to be the right decision. Look, even the great Bill Belichick, 5 years at Cleveland, he got fired after his fifth year. He had a 36-44 record, made the playoffs once. Imagine the Browns never moved on from Bill Belichick. Now, he wouldn't have gone to those amount of Super Bowls that he did with New England, obviously. Right. You know, he wouldn't have the talent anywhere close to the same success. But if you're stuck with him all the way, maybe he turns your fortunes around at some point. Or you at the very least, you're better off sticking with him than not sticking with him.
Yeah. Listen, Bill Belichick, I think that was his first time around, and really didn't know what to expect. And of course, Cleveland wasn't the best place to coach anyway. I don't think so. Anyway,
you give him 5 years there, Matt. That's enough time to turn it around. Yeah. I don't want any excuses. 5 full years. You know, come on. You know, he didn't get it done on balance. I mean, let's be honest about it. I don't want to hear inexperienced, this, that. But sometimes you go to your second job and you're much better off for it. But sometimes you're not. It's all on situations.
If you look at Cleveland's team during those 5 years, their defense was very good, Jack, just to let you know. Their defense was good. It was their offense that was a problem. So, I mean, he had Saban
It's your record. Well, on the Belichick, it's your record.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
The head coach defense is really gritty and playing well. They look at the W's and the L's, Mac. They don't look at the point differentials each week. Oh, did they cover the points? I haven't seen standings for that
They probably covered the
points.
I
want to see with betting done, because you know what I'd like to see the NFL start doing with betting in all sports. Sports. To get the point differentials and do the odds, 5-1 odds, 7-1 odds, 3-1 odds. That's how sport betting should be done, not on the points, strictly wins and losses. Like the Giants are playing the Eagles next week at Philadelphia.
Right.
I want to see something like the Eagles or a 4-1 favorite to win the game. So if
Like
you
what?
want the Giants, you lay down $1 to get close to $4. That's
can
what
bet
I
on-
would like to see. I don't want to see like 9 points,
You
and
can
try
bet-
to figure
yeah.
that.
Jack, you can bet like that. You can bet like that.
You can, but we don't talk. Everyone talks about the points.
Right,
Even
because
on
that's
the
easy.
NFL shows, the pregame shows, they're showing what the point differential is. Everyone's encouraging betting. And then if
Yes.
a player puts a bet on another team
Wow.
instead of playing, he gets banned.
Here we go. Minnesota holds off Green Bay 27-25. Darnold was big in the beginning. The defense was very good in the beginning. Fourth quarter, Green Bay had owned. They scored 15 points to 0 on Minnesota. But Minnesota, Darnold went for 377 yards, 3 TDs, and Jordan Love couldn't get it going, Jack. He couldn't figure out the blitz. Or the Green Bay couldn't
Jordan
figure out
Love,
the blitz,
you
I
mean.
should say. Yeah, Jordan Love couldn't figure it out.
I got it
So-
wrong at the end of the game. He put them within range, 2 points
Yeah.
down, and they had 3 timeouts left. All they had to do stop Minnesota at the end. And this is what I like about Kevin O'Connell, the Viking head coach. He doesn't play this conservative game. Oh, hand the ball off, make them use their timeouts, and meanwhile the defense is stopping you, and you're going to have to punt anyway, and the other team will get the ball back with no timeouts. But all they need to do is get in field goal range to win the game. And, even with no timeouts, you can do that. But he
Yeah.
didn't play conservative. He threw the ball. They'd have, rollouts, and the Packers were playing the run. And they got a couple of first downs and were able to ice the game where the Packers didn't get the ball back for one last chance. But this is why I like Green Bay to win the Super Bowl this year. I'm sticking with my pick because they're on the cusp. They barely lose to the Vikings in Minnesota, a game they can win, and they're right there with the leaders. They're this silent step behind everyone. And come playoff time, I see the Packers are peaking. I picked the Vikings to win yesterday, by the way. I did pick them to win, so it's not. But I could tell the Packers are trending correctly here for the playoffs. And the question is, the Vikings, are we underrating them? And the Lions have been the best team in the NFL all year, but with all their injuries, have they lost a certain momentum, a swag, or whatever? I don't know. Matt. That's what the NFC is going to be fun watching the playoffs there. And throw the Eagles in the mix. Wow.
Yeah.
They're going to be a lot of outstanding teams going home, earlier than they hoped, anticipated.
All right, the last game last night, Washington wins 30-24 in overtime. Daniels throws for 3 touchdowns. He runs for 127 yards. Penix has a decent game for a second. He threw for 223 yards, a touchdown, interception. Bijan Robinson had a big game, getting 2 touchdowns. What do you expect for Michael Penix right now? He's not going to come in and light.
I think he's going to be a good quarterback in the league. I really do. He's going to be good.
Yeah.
They made the decision to, basically move on from Kirk Cousins. He's still on the roster. Cousins won't be there next year. Cousins had a few bad games in a row. They went to Penix because they felt he gave them the best chance now to get into the playoffs because Cousins was so bad. Sometimes you can only watch so much of a quarterback. And look, you were talking about the Jets before. If they had Michael Penix on their roster and the Jets had a chance to make the playoffs, even if they didn't, I would have benched Rodgers at a certain point, because Penix is the future of the Falcons. If you have a backup that's not the future of your team, you don't just go to him and put a Band-Aid on it because it means nothing at all. Like with the Jets with Tyrod Taylor, going to him during the season would have meant nothing at all because he wasn't going to be a quarterback next year unless it was going to be in a backup role. At most, there's a bridge quarterback at most. We saw that happen in New England with Jacoby Brissett. You see that all the time. Once in a while, I will admit the script gets a little bit flipped. Look at Minnesota. Sam Darnold was supposed to be a bridge quarterback this year, but
Right.
Darnold was still young, and Darnold was once the number 3 overall pick in the draft. That's higher than what J.J. McCarthy was. So Darnold was a blue chip prospect at once. He was once considered the future of a franchise, the Jets. The guys like that could flip the script a little bit, but usually these other bridge quarterbacks, they're not the future of your team.
Kirk Cousins to the Jets next year, starting quarterback.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. A colossal waste of time.
Yes.
A colossal waste for what he would get paid. Absolutely no way. The Jets got to find a way to draft a quarterback. Is there anyone in college that would be viable who they think can be good after Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders go? But once again, if the Jets lose Sunday, depending on how the other teams do, and if they're close to being in position to draft the Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, maybe they can work out some type of deal. They really need badly to get, one of them. But of course, knowing the Jets, they'll probably beat Miami next week and they'll worsen their draft position, move too far back to do that instead of.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Chris. Glad to have you in this morning. Right. Detroit at San Francisco tonight. Detroit should win. They should win tonight, but they do got to go to San Francisco, play them at home. And San Francisco is not a bad team, Jack. San Francisco.
They're not a bad team, but they got nothing to play for. The Niners, I mean, the only motivation, and this is motivation for any team, you're playing on a Monday night. You're the only game going on in the NFL. So all your peers, the players around the league, they're all watching you. Or, everyone is watching you. And when you have the stage to yourself, maybe the game takes on a little more importance to you than it normally would in the same situation.
You definitely don't want to get embarrassed, Jack, right? You definitely want to go out there and play a good game. That's for sure.
But I'll tell you, Sunday Night Football, Matt, remember Monday Night Football used to be the elite game? I think Sunday Night Football is more of a focus game than Monday night now. I think for the players around the league and the public, they're more into the Sunday night game than the Monday night game.
I don't know. I don't know. Sunday night. I don't know. Sunday night, Monday. I don't think Thursday night. The quality of Thursday night is not as good as Sunday and Monday night. That's for sure.
Well, they've got better games this Thursday night. Yeah, something about Thursday night because the game is on Amazon Prime.
You're right.
A lot of people don't seem to have that.
It's just, the team isn't that good. Listen, I think Monday night has its place in history, right? I think Sunday night football, it's good. But by the time Sunday night, unless it's my Giants, I'm footballed out, Jack. I swear to God, I've watched 1 o'clock, and sometimes you even got the game in Germany. So you're watching 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and now you got it. Sometimes I'm just football, depending on who it is.
Can I tell you something? I'm starting to wonder, is football going down the road that boxing went down a lot of years ago when they finally were having too much overexposure? When television came into existence, they had a lot of televised matches. Sometimes they're given a little too much. And I'll be honest, I'm getting a little sick of it. This weekend, Thursday, Friday, 3 games Saturday, Sunday. We're used to like our Sunday football. And we welcome at the end of the year, they want to give us some games Saturday. But it seems they're throwing these games at us one after the other. Think of it, Matt. What was it this week? Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, games going on.
And college football games.
And college.
I was like, oh my God, every channel. And listen, I love football. I'm a football fanatic. I live, eat, and sleep football. But man,
Yeah.
I don't care about. I'll give you an example. I really don't care about Miami and Cleveland, just for an example. You know, at 4, I just don't care. You know, and you know, I don't know. You got to sometimes you just got to get away from everything. Sometimes you just got to get up, go out.
It is that way.
Yeah.
It'll drive you a little crazy after. Well, we love football, but to sit and watch 10 hours in a row, the pre-game, post-game shows,
Yeah.
and do it 3 times during the week, it's like,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Well, we talked about the playoff pictures. This is as of today, Jack. If the ended today, okay, and of course things are going to change because Detroit's playing Minnesota and everything. But right now, Detroit would be number 5 seed with their record. It's incredible at Tampa Bay.
That could happen.
Detroit wins that.
At Tampa Bay. Detroit should win at Tampa Bay, yeah.
Washington against the Rams, a little bit more iffy, right?
Washington at LA.
Yeah. That's a little more
I think
iffy.
Washington upsets LA. How do you like that at LA?
I agree. Big one. Green Bay at number 2 Philly.
I think Green Bay goes into Philadelphia and they shock them and win a close one. And I think things get very ugly in Philadelphia that they would have lost to the Packers.
I think that would, if that happens, that's the best game of the playoffs right there. It's going to be the best game.
That's great game.
You got Pittsburgh at Houston, number 5 against of course, Houston would be the division winner. Both of those teams look like they were just they're not in the mood to play. I mean, they just don't look like they wanted to play last.
I picked Houston to go to the Super Bowl, but the way the two of them are looking now, I would trust the Steelers to regroup a little sooner than the Texans. Push came to shove at this moment, I would pick the Steelers.
A little more experience, maybe, with the coaching.
I mean, it's a tight one. I'm back and forth. I'm on the fence.
Me too.
Basically.
Me too. That could go either way. Our dark horse that we think might happen: the Chargers at Baltimore. Jack, Baltimore barely beat the Chargers in regular season.
Chargers at Baltimore. Wow. I don't want to go to sleep on the Chargers. I got to feel Baltimore finds a way to win the game.
I think so too. I think they got too much talent, but I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, a very good game. Yeah, less than a touchdown.
Harbaugh brothers again, going at it.
Oh, wow. Whoa. Wow.
Right?
Good storyline always. Yeah.
That would be great. And then if Denver wins, Denver's got to win, or some other team gets in, or they got to lose in Denver. Denver at Buffalo, got to be.
Buffalo blows Denver out at Buffalo. I mean, Denver hang tough. A lot of the first half, but Buffalo pull away in the second half. They'll win decisively. Yeah.
I agree. A little NBA news. There was a trade. D'Angelo Russell back. Did he play for the Nets before, Jack?
He did. He's back.
So they traded him back for Finney Smith and Shake Milton. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a deal for the Lakers to help him right now. The Lakers send over 3 number 2 draft picks in the deal as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right now, the only thing I want to talk about the standings right now is Philadelphia is in 11th at 12-17, Jack. I mean, I know it's early, but they better start doing something.
I wouldn't be concerned. No, listen, the teams are bunched closely together in the standings, and Philadelphia, the idea is to get in the top 6 so you don't have to be in the play-in tournament at the end. But Philly, at the very least, they'll be in the play-in tournament. Good chance they'll be in playoff position when all is said and done. They won last week. They won in Boston.
Yeah.
So they still showed what they could do.
Yeah. I think Boston just wasn't. Anyway, folks, we're at the top of the hour. Thanks for joining us today. Always have fun. Me and Jack here leading off the Roku channel on National Streaming Sports. Up next should be Coffee and Sports with Mo and Chris. And stay tuned. Monday, we also have Glove Fist coming at you, 7 p.m. Eastern, here with Jack and Frank Tirzo. So be sure to stick with National Streaming Sports all day. Have a great one, folks, and we'll see you soon.